Thank you so much to our readers. It's wonderful. I want to welcome all of you, especially those of you who are here for the first time. I'm a guest minister here. My name is Nayaswami Anandi. I live up at our community at Ananda Village, and I'm down for the day, and it's a pleasure to be here and to talk about this wonderful subject, dogmatism versus common sense. I think a lot of us here grew up in a religion, and many of us felt that part of the reason we left that religion was there was dogmas there that we just couldn't subscribe to. And so we were very happy to find a religion that honors everyone, honors every person's spiritual path, and also teaches by personal experience rather than beliefs. And that's the foundation of what we're doing here. My husband had a very interesting experience I'd like to share. His name is Bharat, and he's also known as Joseph Cornell. He writes books about nature education, and he travels around the world giving workshops. And so he was giving a workshop, this was many years ago, in Pennsylvania, and he was staying at the home of his host who was doing the workshop. And so the host saw him pray before meals, he saw him meditate, and they gave the workshop, and the workshop is very full of love and joy, and the host liked it very much. And so as the weekend was coming to a close and they were waiting for the ride to pick Joseph up to go to the airport, the host said, "Come with me up to my study." And Joseph didn't know that he actually was a devout, born-again Christian. And so he said, "I'd like to pray." And so they sat down together, and the host offered a prayer, and he said, "Beloved God, Joseph loves you very much. Please make an exception and let him into heaven." But he was very touched by that. I would be very touched by that too. So this subject, and it's sweet because we laugh, and I think a lot of us, if there's anything that we mentally pat ourselves up on the back about, and there aren't many things, I know, but we do pat ourselves on the back about being non-dogmatic, and we feel really good about that. But I thought this morning to have a little fun and to kind of say, well, there are a few things that we are dogmatic about, and I want to just explore those with you because I've been thinking about them lately. The first is the statement, "I should meditate." Okay. Now you go, okay, whoa. Now we know that our path, the path that Yogananda brought, the path of Kriya Yoga, exalted path of meditation. So what is wrong with this dogmatic statement? Well, it's the word should. Because the word should brings in vibrations that God is up there. Have you done your kriyas? Have you done your meditations? You're not a good devotee if you haven't. And it's a word that actually hangs us up, I think. And the reason I was thinking about that is a couple of weeks ago I was talking to a friend who is a Kriyaban. He has practiced in Kriya Yoga for a long time, but he doesn't live in an Ananda community. And so he was telling me about his practice. And he said, I hate to say this, but about half the time I do my morning meditations lying in bed on my back doing my kriyas in bed. I didn't say anything, and because I'm not promoting this, because it does tend to make you a little sleepy, and it does tend to make your meditation a little sloppy and a little daydreamy. But what he said was interesting to me. He said, "I know that I should be sitting up ramrod straight, but he said, when I lie in bed and I do my kriyas that way, I feel that they're mine. I feel a lot of devotion. I feel it's a very personal experience." And I thought, interesting, because in his mind, the shoulds were, okay, this isn't really fun. You've just got to do this, sit up straight, do your best, and so forth. And he liked the idea of relaxing and making it more personal. So, as I say, the method I wasn't in favor of, what was inspiring to me is later, after talking to him, as I was sitting up on my chair, and I was very comfortable. I mean, my seat was supported, and I had a blanket under my feet because my legs are short, and I felt very, very comfortable. I thought, well, I'm just going to imagine that I'm lying in bed. I'm sitting up straight, but I'm going to imagine I'm so relaxed that I could be lying in bed. And most of all, I want to feel that my practice is very intimate, very personal. I'm not here to check this off my list of things that I have to get done today. I'm here because I love God. I'm here because this meditation technique draws the experience of the divine right into the spine. It's very, very, not only profound, it's one of the most enjoyable things you can do. And that's the way I want to focus my attention. So as we look at this idea of meditation, let's just say, every meditation, I'm not there because somebody's watching me. I'm not there because I should be there. I need to be there. Not should, but need. I was giving a class a couple of months ago, and there was a very wonderful woman in this class. This woman had had a very rough life and had depression and had trouble sleeping and a variety of other challenges because of the challenges she'd been through in her life. And she learned meditation, and she really got what was there for her in that. And she wrote me just yet a few days ago, and she's still meditating, and I thought, this is perfect. And why is she doing it? I didn't tell her she had to. She's doing it because she needs it. She's drawing from it. It's changing her, and she can feel that. So let's try to take the should out of that statement. But I also wanted to tell you about this woman because something very interesting happened to her. She was had a very sensitive nervous system, and she got upset when people were kind of loud and obnoxious. And it happens rarely at the Expanding Light where I work up at Ananda Village, but there was this one woman who happened to be riding in a car with her who happened to be loud and obnoxious, and she started to lose her center. Well, the next day we went through an experience of kind of looking at challenges in our life and then trying to draw our energy here to the superconscious part of our being. And I led the group in a meditation, and everyone shared what had happened for them. And at the very end, she shared what had happened. And I share this especially for people who are part of this path with this line of masters. She said she was feeling very kind of upset remembering this obnoxious person. She said, but then when I brought my energy here, she said, I saw Sri Yukteswar, and he winked at me. That has changed my relationship to Sri Yukteswar. Wow, way to go, way to go. It was just what she needed. It's just what she needed. She'd never read the autobiography of a yogi. She knew nothing about this path except that as she sat in class, she was looking at these pictures. But yes, so now what she does is when she gets upset, she just remembers that image of Sri Yukteswar winking at her. I think it's great. So that's dogma number one. The next dogma, and this is very interesting, is that we need to look at life from all sides. Nothing is just all good. We have to really examine all the different parameters of anything we're doing or thinking and so forth. And we have at the Ananda Village, we've been studying the Bhagavad Gita in study groups. And our study group this past month was reading chapter 9 in the Bhagavad Gita, which the very first passage of that is Krishna talking to his disciple. And he says, I reveal these truths to you, Arjuna, his disciple, because you have, conquered. You've overcome the carping spirit. Carping spirit. So now, I always understood that passage to mean carping is like complaining. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like that. Oh, she's not so hot. And, things like that. But it's much, much deeper than that. In the explanation, Yogananda explains it to mean it's that part of ourselves that's just kind of dragging your feet. Yes, but. Oh, I'll do that. Oh, yes. Oh, but I don't know if I should. I don't know if it's the right thing. I don't know if this is, if this is the right person. It's just always a little bit of a drag on your energy. And when I came to Ananda, which was a long, long time ago, Swami Kriyananda had just created an album. And the album was called Say Yes to Life. I was in my 20s at the time, and I was stunned by that concept. Say yes to life. I thought, wow, I always said maybe to life. Okay, maybe. And I don't think it's that unusual, to tell you the truth. If you look around, go, oh, I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no. And the Gita is saying, no, give it your whole energy. And what we've seen, Swami said his experience of Yogananda was that he was the most positive person he'd ever met. He said Yogananda would meet all sorts of people, and it didn't matter whom he met. Could be the most worldly, obnoxious person. He would always find something positive about that person. He would say, well, look how respectful he is to his wife. He's so kind to his children. He would find something that he admired in that person, which I have to say, after hearing that story, it's good to remember, because sometimes we think God is looking at our shortcomings. Just to remember, he's not. He's looking for what is good in you. And the same we saw in Swami Kriyananda, our teacher, the man who started Ananda, extraordinarily positive. I mean, when I came to Ananda, there was nothing there. There were trailers, teepees, just dirt roads, no money whatsoever. I mean, it was just nickel and diming the whole time. Logically, there was nothing to make you assume this would be a success. But Swami Kriyananda's energy was so vibrantly positive that it never crossed our minds that it wouldn't work. He was giving it 100%. And he did that with people too. He just saw the best in them. He was visiting a friend of ours in Hawaii. And this friend, this woman, was in the last few months of a terrible marriage. Her husband we stayed with him for a while, very challenging person. He could be very kind, but then he'd turn on you and just blast your spiritual beliefs. And he had a lot of anger that he used to turn on her. He was a challenging, challenging person. Well, Swami visited there also. Swami just walked in the door. He was immediately this man's friend. He saw the good in him. They laughed together, they shared common thoughts together, and so forth. Well, this woman, my friend, at a certain point thought, I think I better let Swami know who he really is. she sort of pulled him to the side and she said, I can see that you and he have got, great friendship going, but I think you need to know something. And she told him some of the more ghastly aspects of this man's temperament and personality and so forth. And Swami said, I know that, but I choose not to see that. And that was a conscious choice. The masters are not dumb. It's not that they're they're clueless, they miss it all. They just don't want to see it. They want to look at the positive and see the positive because they see that everyone is a child of God. Everyone is God. Just a few little... I think of it like a Halloween costume, wearing this sort of obnoxious costume, but underneath it's just a child of God. And they relate to that child of God. I recently finished a beautiful book called The Trapp Family Singers, about this people and the sound of music. And it's written by Maria Trapp. And she is more joyful and more magnetic even than Julie Andrews. This book is just filled with joy. She has just a love of life, but they're a very deeply religious family, and that's where their magnetism came from, which you don't notice so much in the movie, but it's very clear in the book. And near the end of the book, her husband, her beloved husband, is dying. And she said, we made a pact together that we would, whoever died first, we would say this to them. And so she goes to him, he can barely breathe, and she said, Georg, you know, don't you, that your death is, you accept your death as the will of God, don't you? And he could barely say anything, but he said, yes. And she said, that was the last word he said. And then she quotes a saint, and a saint said, the most important word a person can say to God is yes. Isn't that wonderful? Yes, whatever it is. And so in our Gita study group, one of the women, after, I think we were all just like so noticing how the carping spirit would creep into your life in so many ways, and how important it was to just be positive and keep your energy connected to God and keep your energy connected to devotion. And this woman in our group said, you know, I realize if I'm in a bad mood, if I'm not happy, if I'm just inwardly not feeling uplifted, that's the carping spirit. It goes pretty deep, doesn't it? So what do we do? The instructions in the Gita are live more in your heart and accept everything calmly as coming from God. It's very beautiful. And so if you find yourself getting a little bit like, oh, why me, or why them, or why them coming at me, whatever it is, just go into your heart and say, this is coming from God, and I accept this. Moving through that so that we can really see God in our lives and in everything that's happening. And the last dogma that we have is we should not feel negative emotions. Negative emotions are bad. Now, once again, we know we're positive, we want to keep our energy high, and the more you meditate, really, your energy does stay high. And the more you meditate, truly, you don't really have nearly the negative emotions that you had. But in the Gita, this is also from our study group, this has been a very rich study group for me. This is in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 33, easy to remember. It's the well-known chapter that says, of what use is suppression? In other words, you feel bad, suppress it, or you want to do something, you suppress it. What is the use of suppressing? Then he goes on to explain, and some of us have heard Swami talk about this many times, about going to the dentist. He used to go to the dentist, and he wouldn't use Novocaine because he didn't like it. So it would hurt, and he would mostly rise above it. So that's the way most of us are. As we meditate more, things happen, but we rise above it. But sometimes it would hurt so much that he couldn't rise above it. And so then what he would do is he would go into the heart of it and just completely accept it. And so then he describes this in terms of emotions. And when I was reading this, something came to mind from my life, one person in my life, where there was just, whenever their name was mentioned, there would be this little feeling in my, right here. And so I realized that what devotees do when they have one of those feelings, it could be here, it could be your heart, it could be your throat, some bad feeling is there, you go, okay, well, they're a child of God, I shouldn't feel that way, therefore I don't feel that way, and you just try to suppress it. That's one thing you do. The other thing you do is you defend it. So once you're done suppressing it, then you think of all the reasons, well, they really shouldn't have said that, and they really are arrogant, and blah, blah, blah. So you've got this thing going on. No, it's bad. Yes, I deserve to feel this way. And nothing happens to the feeling. The feeling just sits there. It's like not even acknowledged. It's just either defended or attacked. And what this says is to say, okay, there's the feeling, acknowledge that feeling, accept it, and release it. And I'm going to let us do that right now. I'm just going to lead us through this and see dig deep, find something in your life. Don't go into some huge traumatic thing, but if you've had somebody in your life, we're going to do this for about a minute, but think in your life if there's something that just has gotten to you, maybe you haven't been able to get over, resentment or anger, or something like that. Just close your eyes for a moment. Bring that situation to mind. And don't go into your head at all. See if you can tell where you feel it. Do you feel like a kind of anxiety in your belly or tension in your heart or something in your throat? Just go wherever you feel something and just say, this feeling is fine to have. I accept this feeling. And I relax into it. You can imagine it like a little ice cube. Real hard, little hard feeling that's been there for a long time. And as you accept it, it just starts to soften. It starts to melt. You relax more and more around it. And as it thins out into a thin layer of water, you just see it vaporizing. Just gently releasing, offering it up to God, offering it into love and light. And you just continue with the process, alternating just remembering to relax, remembering to accept, and remembering to let it vaporize and leave. So we could spend a long time doing this, and I encourage you, if you have something in your life like this, I really encourage you to try this approach. I mentioned this an old energy in my life, and honestly, it blew my mind. It was gone. After I did this for about, 10 minutes, and something that had been a funny feeling here for a long time, decades, no longer there. It just needed to be accepted. It needed to be relaxed. So to look at these dogmas in our life, and to sort of look in our life and say, is there something in my life that I'm unhappy about, that makes me unhappy? Oh, I should be meditating and I'm not. How can I change that into something that makes me feel like I want to, like I long to? If we're feeling like, oh, I don't know if this is okay, maybe I'm dragging my feet because I'm so used to carping, I'm so used to seeing the negative, and it makes me just a little bit bummed out. How can I say yes? How can I just move forward, just embrace it, and just say, this is from God? And it's so beautiful, the reading. This is from God for my benefit. That's what it's here for. And then the last one of just, how can I accept what is and offer it up to God? Relax and accept it and go into that. So we can live our lives, even though we are 99% free of dogma. Let's just look for those little ways where we make ourselves miserable. And we just say, wait, I could be joy all the time. So let's take a few moments now and meditate.